Hello, and welcome back to Nerd News. It's been like a week and a half or 2 weeks since I made a video, a Nerd News video. So we have a lot to cover. Firstly, for today, we have the Bleach season finale, or part 1 finale, whatever they're calling it. And this is a 2-part episode. We'll be covering that, which we didn't cover last week because I did make a video. And we have a possible leak of a Zelda Switch OLED. Let's get started. First up, from GameStop, we have this steelbook for Yakuza, or Like a Dragon, Ishin, I believe it's called, the past one, coming out next year. Really cool looking steelbook. Like the inside quite a bit, and the outside having the majority of the cast looks really good. I pre-ordered this. If you pre-order the game through GameStop, you just get this added to your order. So I highly recommend picking it up because the steelbooks are pretty cool. And next up, we have the Zelda Switch OLED, and I don't think this is actually real. For starters, the symbol on the front looks very similar to one of the 3DS special editions. But also, why would they have the box and everything for it already? It just seems really weird that they would have all of that already when the game doesn't come out for like 6 months or 5 months. I don't buy it. I don't think this is a real leak, but it doesn't look terrible or anything like that. So like if this does end up real, I think it's fine. I personally don't see this happening. I think it's way too soon for them to have this much information on it and like have a box for it. And next up we have Avatar: The Last Airbender getting a new series in 2025, which, I mean, that's a ways away, but at least we have it announced. Not a whole lot is known on the series currently, but we know that it will feature the next Earthbender as the Avatar, and this will be following Korra and Aang, obviously, which is really cool. I personally would have liked to see the world expanded on a little bit more outward instead of Succession, but that's just my opinion. I would like to see more of the world with Korra and stuff, maybe not necessarily following Korra specifically, but just more of the world before we go to another outward expansion. But at the same time, I think it's neat, and I'm always happy to watch more Avatar, especially The Last Airbender. Not the blue people. I don't like the blue people. Fuck the blue people. But Avatar: The Last Airbender is really great, and I'm happy to get another series. Kind of sad that's not going to be till 2025, but I think we're getting a movie before that, so maybe it won't be too long of a wait. And next up we have Velma, which will be premiering on 1/12 of this year, so just literally 11 days away. And I believe that's the same week as The Last of Us premieres, which is great because they're both on HBO. Can watch 2 cool looking shows. I'm really excited for The Last of Us, but I'm also really excited for Velma. I'm not 100% sold on it being a good show, but it looks decent, and I did like the little teaser that they put out a couple months ago. It was funny, even if I don't think that's the way the show is going to be exactly. It was still pretty funny. I'm hoping they put a real trailer out soon. I don't think they have yet. I haven't seen one. Hopefully an actual trailer will come out over the next couple of days. And if it does, we'll cover it here. But for right now, I'm excited for the show. And again, the same week as The Last of Us, or within a couple of days of The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us is the 15th. So even if it's like this is a Friday or something, it's within a couple of days of each other. Really excited for this. Can't wait. And like always with Warner Brothers, it's 1 step forward and 17 steps back. They have announced that a ton of their cartoons will be leaving the platform, HBOmax, including Justice League Unlimited, which is kind of the same series, but whatever. So we have Aquaman from 1967 leaving, Justice League Unlimited, and Batman the Brave and the Bold. And while I can't say how good the old Aquaman cartoon is, I don't really know. Justice League and Justice League Unlimited are fantastic, and they don't leave until the end of January. So if you haven't watched them, I do highly recommend getting a chance to watch them now. There is a Blu-ray copy, I believe, readily available, or at the very least a DVD copy that's readily available. I always recommend just owning media, like especially something like this. Like, it's a very good show. A physical copy isn't going to cost you more than like $30. If you have the money, I suggest just buying it, because this is a fantastic show and you're definitely going to want to watch it. But this is what I don't like about streaming services in general, but in specific, right now, WB and HBO Max as a service has been a shit show, and they keep getting rid of great shows on here, and I don't know why. I mean, I know why. They're cheap, they suck ass. I hope they all can't. I have to cut that. But it's ridiculous. Batman the Brave and the Bold, I've heard good things. I've only seen a little bit of it. It's a little past my time. But from what I've seen, it looked fun. But I'm pretty sure that was a little bit more kiddie. I think I remember my nephew watching it at some point. But either way, at the very least, 2 of these shows are fantastic, and 1 to 2 of them are at the very least good, or I've heard very good things. So I recommend watching them while you can, but you only have a month. They go away January 31st. And next up, after, I want to say, like 25 years now, I think it came out in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, Sandland is finally getting an anime. This is posted by Bandai Namco on their website, or on YouTube. It doesn't say it's an anime, it says a visual, I don't know, it says it's a visual adaptation, and that there will be introduced to the world of Sandland through various collaborations and mediums. I'm going to be honest, I don't know what any of this means. Like, obviously I get what the words are, but what the hell does that mean? Is this an anime or not? It looks like an anime. We're going with anime right now. Sandland's great. If you haven't read Sandland, it's 1 manga volume. That's the 1 volume. Pick it up, read it. Absolutely fantastic. Akira Toriyama doing some of his best work outside of Dragon Ball. As someone who's a huge fan of Dragon Ball, the original Dragon Ball, not the Z and stuff. I mean, I like Z, but specifically the original Dragon Ball, this is much more similar to that line of work that he's done, and not so much the Dragon Ball Z Super stuff. Definitely suggest reading it. It's really good, and I can't wait for this. This has never had an anime adaptation, which I was really surprised about when I first heard of it, because, I mean, it's Akira Toriyama. You would think that with the success of Dragon Ball, that just anything that he put out would probably get an adaptation, especially considering he wrote it to be a short story. It was never intended to be any longer. So it's not like it got canceled because it was bad. Like, he finished the series and that was it. He wanted to make a very short story. He did that, and then he was done. So you would think they would have just made like an anime movie out of it or something, but it never got anything. It never got any kind of recognition beyond that. I mean, it did get localized to the US, which is more than you can say about some other manga. Neko Majin Z, for example, never really got localized. I think we got like 1 or 2 chapters, and it's never been physically published. It's just was in Shonen Jump once. But this is a really big deal. It's finally getting something, and I'm really excited. I love this manga, and can't wait. Hopefully it's good. And next up in some Yu-Gi-Oh news, we have some statues coming. Some Yu-Gi-Oh card statues, but they're not like anime cards for once. We're getting something that's not the anime and not DM. It's weird. It's really strange. But we got this monster figure collection for IP Masquerada. Looks pretty good. This is obviously just like a quick render of it, or not a quick render, but like just a rendering of it. It's not the actual figure, but I mean, it's cool to see a fan favorite card getting a figure, especially considering we usually just get like Blue Eyes, Dark Magician stuff, so this is nice. We have the Charmers, not all 4, but we have the 4 original Charmers, Earth, Water, Fire, and Wind, all getting figures, and I don't really like the Charmers that much. I know they're fan favorites, but this is way less interesting to me. However, I will be picking up the Iria figure, the water one. I like the water one. That's the cool one. The rest of them, don't care. But assuming these look good and aren't like insanely priced, I want to try to pick up that water one. And they have announced that there will be other figures coming, although they don't have anything to show for them right now. We have Sky Striker Ray and Rose, Gemini Elf, Apprentice Illusion Magician, and Brionic of the Ice Barrier. Like, it's really cool that we're getting Brionic. I'm definitely picking up the Brio when it comes out. Again, assuming it's not like insanely priced. If it's like $100, $200, I'm definitely picking up that Brio. But it's really funny that like the only ones they had to show were Charmers and IP. And then the only ones that they have announcements for are the Sky Strikers, Gemini Elf, and Apprentice Illusion. But you might notice they all got something in common with the anime figures. And then Brio. Because, you know, just for some diversity. Gotta throw a dragon in there. Yeah. Anyway, I'm definitely picking up the Water Charmer and Brio. maybe Apprentice Illusion Magician, and we'll see about IP Masquerader. It does come down to price on these things. I'm not trying to spend like $1,000 on Yu-Gi-Oh figures, but at the same time, if they're reasonably priced, I kind of want those ones. And next up, we have another Yu-Gi-Oh and Adidas collaboration. This will be the fifth pair of shoes, I believe. They look okay, I guess. They look fine. I've heard a lot of people complaining, but to be honest, after the first set, my expectations weren't exactly high on this, and these look alright. They look fine. They look kind of generic, kind of bland, but I like the writing on the tongue, and I do like the little at the end of the shoe you have the Millennium Eye, the Millennium Puzzle, and then you have the other one. The other shoe says Yu-Gi-Oh across it, and that's really cool. I like that. The shoe itself looks fine. Again, it's decent. There's nothing terrible about it. I don't know if I would go out of my way to buy them if I didn't just really like Yu-Gi-Oh, but at the same time, they look okay. Like, if I saw them, I'd probably pick them up. But the more important thing is, they come with a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and it's Dark Magician in the super classic secret rare, where it has, like, the stony, hollow look to it. It's hard to describe exactly what it is. It's a really unique secret rare that they just don't make anymore. I like the way the names are on these old secret rares specifically. I think the most comparable one for this would be the DDS Dark Magician, which is extremely expensive. But it has like the Speed Duel type logo that says Adidas in it. That's really cool. I like that, and that's honestly, that in and of itself is enough of a reason for me to buy the shoes. I would buy them just to have that, and then the shoe box looks pretty cool. It's reminiscent of the gold sarcophagus. It's hard to tell in this image exactly, but it reminds me of the gold sarc, where that the puzzle is actually kept in. It's pretty cool. I do like them. I don't know if I'd wear them, but I do like them. I kind of want a pair just to get that Dark Magician and then have like the box sit back here somewhere. And speaking of Yu-Gi-Oh, we have this new spell card that sounds kind of ridiculous, but we'll talk about that at the end. Coming in Cyberstorm Access, it is Time Rending Morganite. Sure, we're going to go with Time Rending Morganite. 1. It's a normal spell. During this duel, apply each of the following effects. You cannot activate the effects of monsters in the hand. You draw 2 cards when you conduct your normal draw. You can normal summon set up to twice per turn. That's all one effect. That's a pretty long effect. 2, you can banish this card from your graveyard and discard 1 copy of itself. During this turn, when you normal summon a monster, your opponent cannot activate effects of monsters. So it gives you protection for your normal summons, but you have to have this in the grave and have another copy in hand, which is not ideal. So basically you can, I want to say like 90% of the time, you can just say that effect is not going to happen. You have to open 2 copies of this card to get that effect. Pretty much not going to happen. But the first effect, you cannot activate monster effects in the hand. That's really bad. That means you can't play hand traps at all. And it's during this duel, which means you can't like use hand traps going second and then on your turn activate this, I believe. That's the way the wording sounds to me at the very least. That's bad, but during your draw phase, you get to draw 2 cards. That's every turn going forward. And you can normal summon set up to twice per turn. I don't think this card will be meta relevant specifically. However, I do think this card will be good as like a rogue deck enabler. Like, this will be the kind of card that a lot of like tier 3 or maybe tier 2 decks just play, because while it's not great, it's just a double summon with upsides. And while not every deck can play it, but there are some decks that just can't afford hand traps, like combo decks and stuff that really just can't afford to play a hand trap or something, but they could afford to play this. That's going to, at the very least, act as an extender where they can get a second normal summon. You do have to remember that going first, or even going second, regardless, on your first turn activating this, it's just a double summon. It doesn't do anything else. It's just a double summon. It's really on turn 3, or at the very least your second turn, that you get an additional effect where it starts to draw you additional cards. I think it's a good card in a vacuum. Like, just on paper, it's a good card. You get to draw 2 cards per turn. You can do 2 normal summons or sets per turn. Those are both really strong, really good effects. However, not being able to play hand traps and just, it's not really just limited to hand traps, but the big thing is generically is that you can't play hand traps, but then also not being able to get that bonus effect until afterwards is kind of not great. If the second effect was banish this card from your graveyard and then, discard any card, I think that would be better. But the fact that you have to have a second copy of itself means that second effect is almost never relevant. Just overall, I think it's a very strong card that's going to see very niche play. It's a really well-designed card for now. Give Konami like 2 or 3 years, and this card will probably be broken because this is the entire duel. It's a double summon, and it has an upside. At some point, this card will probably see play. We've seen double summon become broken. Double summon doesn't do anything. It's a -1 that lets you summon an additional monster, and that card has seen competitive play and competitive success. This is just that with an upside. I can see this card eventually getting, seeing play and seeing competitive success, but it's going to take time and the right deck for that to happen. Gadgets 2023, I guess. And lastly for today, we're going to cover Bleach, the final episode for part 1. It was a 2-part episode, so we got an hour-long episode last week, and it was really good. This was exactly what I was waiting for. When I said I liked the next part coming up, I was trying to get to this, but I didn't want to spoil anything for anyone who doesn't read the manga or didn't read the manga, is just an anime-only viewer. I really liked this part of the anime. This is when we start to see how Ichigo's parents got together. Ichigo goes and learns about his Quincy heritage. He gets his new swords, and overall this is just a really good part of the anime and of the manga in general. I think it was really well animated. I don't really have a whole lot to say more on it than that, though. It was very good. I did really enjoy it, but at the same time it was a week ago, and I'm gonna be honest, I kind of forget what happened. I know what happened, but I forget what parts I really did enjoy specifically. I usually record this immediately after watching it, so I have it in my head. I can just ramble about it. But to be honest, this is just one of the parts of the manga that I did really like, and just plot wise, I like what's going on. Learning that what he thought was Zangetsu was really just YGO's power inside of him, and that's what he's been using for the most part this whole time. And that the white Zetsu was the real Zangetsu, or was his Zanpakuto, and then he makes the Zanpakuto out of both of them. It's just really cool. It's really well done, and it does continue with that theme of Ichigo is a little bit of everything, so every time there's a villain, he's part of the villain side, or has the powers of the villain to some extent. And it's a little annoying, in my opinion, that it kind of gets dropped after this, in that he doesn't ever do any Quincy powers or anything like that. It's not like he starts using a bow or anything like that, like with the Hollow Mask when he started using Sero's. Nothing like that ever happens for Ichigo in the manga, as far as Quincy stuff goes. And they drop the Blute stuff the rest of the time. The Blute stuff is done. We will probably, unless they change the anime up a little bit to reincorporate it, you just don't see it again. I don't think ever. I don't think Ichigo ever uses it again, and I don't think it's seen anymore. And it makes this ring a little hollow, in my opinion, no pun intended, where Ichigo doesn't really use a lot of the Quincy powers the way he did with the Soul Reaper powers in the beginning, which, I mean, obviously, but then the Hollow powers later, he does a little bit more with that, whereas this one, it's revealed, he can do it, and he just goes right back to his Soul Reaper powers, and you never see the Quincy stuff again. And to be fair, you don't really see the Quincy stuff from the Quincy's anymore, so, I guess, but it's just a little odd. You do see more of his Hollow powers, spoiler, I guess, which is really cool, but that's not till, the very, very end, so, we got some time. Also, I don't think Ichigo really does a whole lot after this. trying to think back on like who he fights and what actually happens, I don't think he has a whole lot more to do. We're going to be focusing a lot more on the Gotei 13 than we are Ichigo at this point. And to be honest, I really like the second invasion, so I'm happy to wait here for this. But, you know, it is what it is. We don't get a whole lot more of the Quincy stuff. This is kind of the tail end of Ichigo getting powers and doing anything. So it's nice to see, and it's really cool to see his new swords. I think they looked really good, and overall the episodes were just good. I still think that the earlier episodes were significantly better than this back half of part 1, but that just has to do with the way the manga is structured. The opening to this saga, or this arc, is absolutely fantastic. It is one of the strongest arc openings I think I've ever read, if not, at the very least, in Bleach. It's just really, really strong opening to the war arc with the first invasion, and just like the manga, after that first invasion, we never really get that peak again. The second invasion, or the final invasion, whatever, is a lot better. Is very good. I don't want to say better. It's very good, but it's not, Yamamoto dying good. It's not, Byakuya getting pummeled into a wall good. Like the opening, this was really strong. So the second half isn't going to be as good, but it's still very good. I can't wait to see it. Speaking of which, the more important part here, because I'm a little late on the episode, so it's not super important. The more important part here is that part 2 will be premiering in July of this year now, because it's now 2023. Holy shit. So July, we get to move on to part 2, so no new episodes for a while, which is fine. I don't have time to watch TV, even for a half hour a day. A half hour a week doesn't really fit into my schedule. I had to make time to do that, and it kind of threw my schedule off quite a bit, so I'm kind of glad it's going away for a little bit, just so that I can get my personal schedule back in line, and then we'll figure it out when it comes back. I'll try to make a schedule around that so I can talk about it for Nerd News again. But if you didn't know, I posted this in the video yesterday. It was the channel update for the year. Tried not to do too many of those, but with the new year, I want to do something just so you know what I'm planning on making for video wise this year. But also, I updated the schedule for Nerd News. It will no longer be Monday through Friday. It will now just be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I go over exactly why in the video, so if you really care, you can watch that. I guess. But the important part is that we're going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday now. And obviously, if Bleach comes back, Bleach is on Monday night, which means I won't be covering it Tuesday because I won't be having a video out Tuesday. So when Bleach does come back, so in July, I'll probably change the schedule a little bit to accommodate that. But for right now, we're going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Episode was good. Can't wait for it to come back. Kind of glad it's on a break so I can, get back to my normal schedule. I don't have a half hour a day to watch TV. I don't have a half hour a week to watch TV. I'm lucky if I get time to watch at all. So, yeah. And that's all the news for today. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the Switch OLED. Do you think the leak is real? I personally don't, but let me know if you think it's real. Do you even like it? If it is real, will you buy this? Because, I probably will just because, but would you buy this if you wanted it? Would you upgrade your Switch to get this Switch? Because I don't think it looks that good. I think it looks okay at best. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and we'll be back on Wednesday with more nerd news. Bye.